to go to just talking about, Anvil. I definitely want to mention that. That's something that I think you have popularized in the community and just got all kinds of people excited about when they think about how to talk to the blockchain, how to provide data, represent stuff, and all that. Can you maybe, and I'll just scroll through the blog too, because I've already posted it, and just gives you a way to understand how to get started with Infura and Anvil and all that whole basket of technologies. But maybe you could walk us through, what do you use Anvil for? How have you used it? Like, is it the base of all the Maximus products in the staking portals? Like, how is it? How have you been able to harness it to really make a difference in the products you build?
Yeah. So for anyone just learning about Anvil now, Anvil is a platform for building, deploying, and hosting full stack web applications that you write in Python. And so it's all in the browser. So it's like a really effective, just kind of like all in one place that's where you write all your code. That's where you manage your database. It's where you manage everything. It's just all right there, and everything just works out of the box. And so I use Anvil for truly everything. I used to build another like my first app, it was a React Native mobile app. And then when I started doing more stuff on the web, I was learning, I knew React, but I was learning Django because I knew Python a lot. And so I was researching, I was looking up like a Django, like a drag and drop, like front end builder for a Django app. And that's how I found Anvil, was because Anvil has a really nice like drag and drop user interface designer that you then just write Python functions to operate. And so I was looking for like Python web development tools, and that was how I found Anvil. And I'm not even kidding. Since that day, I have not even thought about any other JavaScript framework or any of these other web stuff. Like, I'm actually totally out of the loop on anything new that came out starting in like early 2018. Like, once I started using Anvil, I've stopped all other like web development tooling. So in some ways I'm kind of out of the loop, but it's just because for me, it's just so effective in being able to build really anything and being able to plug in to anything, and being able to just manage it all just in a single like login on a web browser. It just like cuts down all the barriers to like getting started working on your app that day. And so and it just works really great. And the team behind it, it's like rather than having to hire like a full developer team for like the back end stuff for hosting databases and servers and like hosting everything and like securing it and all the tools that just Anvil has
security nightmare.
Yeah, it's like, rather than having to have either myself know how to do that stuff or hire others to do that, it's just like it feels like you have like a really capable just like engineering team behind you, and then the code that you're writing is the code that makes your app what your app does. So connecting with the data sources that you care about, the user interface, it's so like 100% of the coding time is spent building the features in your app, and it's not on any type of like infrastructure stuff. So it's really effective for just like small teams. So if you're Anvil.works is the,
I always get it wrong.
Yeah. And it's really effective in just like if you have an idea, you can build it and launch it entirely by yourself. So that's what kind of drew me to it. And also, I mean, the best developer tool is the one that and just by now it's, I've, hammered out probably thousands of hours on Anvil, between the Maximus stuff, just any project I build, truly anything, even when I'm just like, I want to answer a question, I want to like look up some data from something, I'll like just do it all through Anvil just because it's so easy. It's kind of like a Python sandbox for me. But then also like at my at this startup that I had helped build, the entire platform was built on Anvil just by myself. And then there's one other guy helping for a while, but and that's supported by now like hundreds of thousands of customers. tens of millions of dollars of business going through it. Major, Fortune 500 companies use, like teams at those companies using that to, like, the company still operates. I'm not with them anymore. The company still operates on the Anvil app that I built them. And it was so simple that they didn't need like an ongoing engineering team to operate it. It's like their, operations people can operate the app. And so for, and that's a startup. And so for I think it's really effective for that type of setting where it's not like you don't have like, kind of like larger, like corporate engineering teams that are like more expensive. Like when it's just like a small number of people, it really works out, but like the trade-off of that is that, a lot of people do know Python, so you're halfway there, but then like the Anvil knowledge is also like, that's kind of another piece to it. And so it's different than like, it's not like Django, it's not like Flask or any of these other frameworks that Python web developers already know. So like the people, it's like, it's already kind of a smaller community. Some developers hate Anvil because it's like they have the mentality of like, oh, I can build this all myself in a weekend. Like I'm not going to use that tool. Like Anvil got poo-pooed on in Hacker News when it got launched.
Really?
But also so did Bitcoin. So did, I think, Hex was, like all the great things. Dropbox, there's like a famous message, Dropbox launched that they like resurfaced when it went public. And some guy was like, oh, you could simply just like, and he rattled off all kinds of techno bullshit.
I will say, to be fair, to this day, I'm like, why do people use Dropbox? To this day, but they're a very successful company, so there must be a huge enterprise use case, I would imagine.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, so a lot of developers, they kind of poo-poo on Anvil because it does everything for you, and like, and then there's always trade-offs. Any type of tool that you select, and like, but just like because of how much it allows me to build with very limited like risk, it's like such a no-brainer for what I build with, and what the types of things that I build for certain use cases. Maybe you need to have higher performance for certain things, or specific types of integrations, but just the flexibility and the ease of use and just being able to truly build anything. Like I really feel like I can build anything on earth with Anvil.
Well, that and ChatGPT, right?
Yeah, I mean, like that. That's how I interact with the OpenAI ChatGPT API is just on an Anvil app that I built, where I just like, it's kind of like they have that playground, but you have all the use limits and stuff. And so, like I like for this year for Christmas, I made Christmas cards, and I built an Anvil app to generate images and like funny jokes for the Christmas card using ChatGPT and Anvil. And so it's just like little like things like that, just like little tools you want to make for yourself. It's just super useful.
Well, so for people who know, maybe they know Python, they've learned, they started out with HTML, JavaScript. Maybe they know Python, maybe they know like a couple languages, but they're thinking, okay, how do I guess the question is, what is the 1, 2, 3 in order to actually build these web apps to the stuff you did with Maximus, and outside of the actual Solidity code and contract, but like, how do you, what is the easiest way to get started into building, just dApps or building just things that talk to the blockchain to provide services?
Yeah. So I guess those are kind of two separate. So like for if you just want to be able to like read information from the Hex smart contract and display it on a website, for instance, then the tools, I think what you highlighted in there, where you need to, use a service for connecting to the blockchain. It can either be your MetaMask just on your browser, or it can be like Infura or another provider. So you need the connection to the blockchain. And then whatever tool you use to call the functions, there's one called Ethers.js. There's web3.py. Alchemy has an API. There's any number of these, tools. And then you just follow the instructions on there, where you paste in your connection. It's called the URL, the RPC URL that it gives you. It's like you just paste it in there, and then you use it to call the functions using those tools. So you just find your API tool. So, Ethers JS or, web3.py. So like, for instance, on the Maximus apps, Ethers JS, all I do is I just copy I go to the Ethers JS website and I copy the installation script, and all it is just like 3 lines of HTML that point to it, and then I paste that into something in Anvil. It's called native libraries. So if like you need to import a JavaScript library to use in an Anvil app, you just type in the HTML that imports the library in that native libraries section, and so then all you do is you just call those functions. You can either call them directly in JavaScript, or Anvil actually has this really good, like, it's almost like a Python to JavaScript translator, where you call the JavaScript functions in Python. So, it's actually really intuitive if you know both JavaScript and Python. It's like it's awesome. It's a really awesome experience where you can call JavaScript functions, and the interface you call them through is just in Python. So that's how I connect to it, to the Ethers library. And then from there, it's like, you just have to look at the documentation for what functions you call to, get a contract, read values from the contract, read events from the contract, or write to the contract and then prompt the MetaMask thing for a signature. So all that is done through the Ethers JS library. And so that's like, it's actually really simple. And Anvil definitely makes it really easy to do, because you can just, plug in Ethers JS right into your Anvil app, and then you're connected to the blockchain. So it's pretty awesome. And then so that's for like building like the front ends, and for like the actual like writing and deploying of a smart contract is kind of entirely different. But
yeah. Hexberry, I want to build a front end for dApps. Yeah, is that so? I guess maybe you can talk about that too. Like, how could Hexberry get started doing that?
Yeah, so definitely just get like I use Anvil, and so just sign up for an Anvil account and just kind of learn the basics of that, and then once you kind of get just like the hang of using Anvil, let me know, and then I could send a link with it, like an example of, and RHMax. I think I might have sent it to you actually. That one that I think it was the MetaMask.
Yeah. That's the coolest thing about Anvil too, is you can like when you sent it to me, I was like, it took me a second to wrap my head around what is going on. Oh, you can copy a project and all the code goes there, and then Anvil makes it so easy to just get started, or just have them in different tabs so you can use it as reference. So yeah, you can just copy example code and share it with people very easily.
Yeah. So that one I sent you, that MetaMask app. I have that's like my like baseline app, and then any new app that I build, I just import that as a dependency, as if you import any, like, because from like your code's perspective, 100% of everything you write in Anvil, it's just a normal Python directory. Like, it's just a normal set of Python files. And so like everything is just already like just connected. And so I have that, some of those like starter apps like that MetaMask one. And so I just import, where it's just like, from MetaMask, import MetaMask, that's how I import my MetaMask module. And then, so I don't have to like redo all that stuff every time. I just, with one line of code, import that. And now that app can enable like a MetaMask integration. So like if you want to build front ends for dApps, like just first, you kind of need to know how to like just build front ends, and Anvil just makes it really easy to build front ends. But then the connection to the, to the blockchain, you use tools like that, so once you get there, I could kind of, help you with that next step if you really wanted to.
Yeah, Devketcher, you've been super invaluable for like just I think Sloth also reached out to you. Gift might have as well, just to get an idea of how to get started. I think that's the hardest thing. Even though I come from somewhat a traditional dev background, it's like Anvil is just such a new paradigm. But once you start using it, you're like, wow, this does everything I need, you know, for the most part. And that's why you've used it so much. And so it's like everything in Maximus ecosystem, all the staking port, everything is built from that.
100%.
It's
The
amazing.
only thing that's not is just like the maximusdao.com, like kind of more marketing site, and Gold Key made that just on Webflow. So I think he started with like a free template and just modified that design. So that one's not on Anvil, and just, you know, because, you know, you go with the tools that you know, and Webflow has really good like design tools, because like with Anvil you can implement any design. It's just, you know, because you can write the CSS. It has some good CSS templates that you can just use, but then you can just modify the like theme.css file, and you can make your Anvil app truly look as good as, you know, if you're good at CSS, and you know, you can truly make anything. But I like Webflow has just really nice design tools. So once Anvil implements design tools like Webflow, like that I think is like another big step in how, because Anvil always improves. Like the Anvil that you're seeing right there, this is like the like third version of Anvil that I've used throughout the time, and it's like always getting better. It's like every couple weeks a new thing, you know, Anvil releases something, or just suddenly everything will just be working better. Or like the autocomplete feature just works better, or like just new features, like, you know, so it's always getting better. And so,
Yeah.
you know, I think at some point that their design tools will be able to compete with Webflow's design tools, and like the drag and drop design tools. And I think that'll be a big game changer for Anvil.
Yeah. You guys have any, before we move on to the next contract, Fashion Coder GIF, you guys have any questions for DC while we got him on this?
I have a quick question actually about this. I've never heard of Anvil before. Is it web-based or is it a desktop app?
Web-based.
Okay,
so
cool.
All in the browser, and it's, yeah, that's like my favorite part, because I hate downloading software. You know, it's just like, and then you can do it from any computer, you know. So if you're on the go, if you have like a laptop you travel with, and like a, you know, like, because I have my computer at home, and then, you know, laptops on the go, and so I can, you know, from any device, even on your mobile device, you can log like
if you really needed to, you could do it.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to type. But if you know, but yeah,
that's
like
awesome.
We're gonna see you with like a Bluetooth keyboard on your phone, just like, oh, I gotta fix it. There's a bug. I gotta fix it.
It probably could. I think if I had if you had the keyboard connected to the phone, it probably, because it's the on-screen keyboard it's all hard to deal with, and so
yeah.
But an iPad, you know, it literally runs on an iPad, so it's, you know, it's very powerful in that sense.